Hi everyone, Sky here. I just wanted to come on and give you guys a preview for what some of the premium content on Patreon is currently like. Okay, so this is going to be the T-chat for this current week ahead that we are in. I will be offering free trials on Patreon. There are 7-day free trials for those of you who have never had a membership to Patreon. The free trials only work for accounts that have not yet been a member. So definitely come and check out a free trial if you enjoy this T-chat. These go up every Saturday at this time on Patreon, so come check that out. Also, if you have had a membership before, I do currently have a discount code. Just use the code 2025 to get 10% off your membership. So that is a nice little treat also for those of you who want to return to Patreon, who can't do the free trials anymore. So yes, this is the T-chat for the current week, I think December 14th through December 21st, 2025. The whole thing is going to be available here on YouTube just for this week, and I will link below the link to Patreon as well as pin a comment. Definitely come check it out, you all, because these discounts and trials are only lasting through part of January, as I will not be so focused on promotions in 2025 as I've got a lot of content changes to make. So this is a limited time offer, so definitely come get this now. And if you've been wanting to try out the Patreon page, now is definitely the time with some really great incentives. So anyway, without further ado, here is T-Chat 238. Free on YouTube to give an example of what is offered on Patreon. Hi everyone and welcome to T-Chat 238. I'm coming on to talk to you about the week ahead of December 14th through December 20th, 2024. I'm so excited to be coming on to talk to you all. We're going to be talking about Mercury going direct this week, thank goodness, as well as building up to these applying Jupiter-Saturn squares. I am getting a lot of download and a lot of information coming in for this week ahead, so let's spend a lot of time getting prepared for these changes. One quick reminder before we get into it, yes, this Friday, December 20th, I will be having the season finale live premiere of the current live premiere season, which will be the 2025 year ahead forecasts. That will be happening Friday, December 20th at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Central time, and 9 p.m. Eastern time. I hope you will all mark your calendars or set a reminder on your phones to come to that, as yes, that will be our final live premiere of the season. Also, I think that they're some of the funnest live premieres to do because they usually go 2 or 3 hours, so it's kind of flexible for people's schedules. A lot of people come and participate in that. I will also be doing a giveaway for some free Patreon subscriptions starting out in 2025 over there. So I'm super excited to do that and talk about what to expect for the 2025 year cycle for all signs. So yes, do keep that in mind for this Friday. But yes, let's talk about this week ahead. So first of all, December 15th, Mercury goes direct. Thank goodness. We are going to remain in shadow, though, for the rest of December. So we are going to maybe not feel totally out of the woods yet. Of course, Jupiter is still retrograde in Gemini until February 4th, I believe it is. So we are in kind of a larger energy of Mercury Jupiter direct, because also Jupiter is in Mercury's sign of Gemini, right? And it's debilitated. We had Mercury in Jupiter's sign, which is debilitated. So we had a debilitated mutual reception of Jupiter and Mercury. We are entering this week ahead with that energy, and I'm going to read for you all a little bit about coming through that and also sort of bridging the gap between now and February. Really like later February, because that is when we're going to come out with a very different type of scenario and really coming out the other side of a certain anomaly, really. It was really interesting, actually. In my own personal life, I was having some internet issues, and the internet company was having to come out and work on some of the fiber connections in the area that I live, and I was just like so surprised when I had this awesome synchronicity that happened with that. Actually, the internet person said that there was an anomaly, okay, with the fiber, and I laughed and said, you know, I've been thinking about that word a lot lately, the word anomaly, and it seemed to really resonate with him as well about how this general period of time has been an anomaly, and yes, they were able to get it resolved. So that was so funny to me, because you guys know, if you've been listening to a lot of the content lately, that I've been talking a lot about the word anomaly in 2024, and it was just so funny to me that it came up in my own personal life, because it's not a word that you hear very often. But yes, the internet people used that word when they were coming to fix my internet problem, which of course happened during this Mercury-Jupiter sequence that we're in. So yeah, I think that this week ahead there are some anomalies to resolve, okay? I think that there is a complex board of issues that we're working with, especially if this is in your chart, as it is in my chart, you know, the Jupiter-Mercury retrogrades. And we have to be able to get out of the sort of peripheral, unrelated problems and be able to really focus in and resolve the main anomalies that are blocking energy from flowing properly. You know, if you have this Jupiter-Mercury debilitated mutual reception in your chart at all, I think it means at a quantum level that there are maybe too many moving parts that aren't quite allowing for energy to flow properly. And that would not just be something that we were picking up on psychically at this time. It would be really starting to manifest itself in the fabric of every physical experience that we're having. But don't fear, because I also feel that the hope and opportunity of this transit also are in this dynamic being able to be resolved. You know, sometimes the universe puts us through these kinds of complex scenarios for us to resolve them as a sort of testing mechanism. And we are definitely in one of those during this time. And a lot of us have to look at things very sequentially right now, meaning the sequencing of our planning, the sequencing of our executive decisions are in focus right now. We can't, it's kind of weird, because I feel like for people who are having a lot of chaos right now, yeah, all you can do is put one foot in front of the other and kind of get through it. On the other hand, we really can't afford to employ that kind of short-sighted decision making. So here we are with the Jupiter-Saturn square coming in, right? Which is applying to be exact again on December 24th, bestowing many Christmas gifts onto all people who it touches and onto all people whose lives it is aspecting. Yeah, we have to understand the anomaly that exists that would put us into a position where we're unable to access these higher executive decisions during this time, and we would have to really resolve that rather than even making the executive decisions. That's about the best way that I can word it. It's a hard time to articulate, you all. Maybe not the easiest time to be a speaker during Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, but I'm trying my best. I know that you all are as well. But yeah, we can't really talk through it, actually. And I feel that many of the issues in people's lives during this exact time, during these next 2 to 3 weeks in December, getting through the rest of December 2024, it can't really be talked through. Okay, we can pinpoint some of the dynamics like this. We can pinpoint, okay, there might be some type of anomalous situation that has to be resolved. There might be some kind of also cognitive dissonance issue, or a clash of belief systems, perhaps, for some people with the Jupiter-Saturn square. And all of this would kind of be compounding itself and really putting some people into one of the most testing times of their lives, where they have to refine their belief systems, where they have to also not accept certain negative circumstances anymore. This is a difficult time to be someone who accepts things too easily. Also, it's a difficult time to be someone who is too critical as well. So there's this balance needed between that which is critical and that which is overly accepting to find the actual sort of resolution of anomaly. So let's dig down into that a little bit more. What does resolving an anomaly look like? What does it feel like? And how do we queue up the scenario with which to do that effectively? Okay, so to resolve an anomaly, essentially a situation in your life that doesn't necessarily disrupt everything completely, doesn't necessarily lead to an emergency, but at the same time perhaps negatively impacts or influences the totality of the overarching system that you're functioning through. Okay, to resolve it, we have to understand all of the nodes essentially that are connected to it. And for some people, this is going to have to be put into a hierarchy, essentially. Meaning that, okay, we have these different sectors of our lives. We need to understand what sectors are generating this anomaly. So, like, for some people, it's everything. It's their job, it's their business, it's their love relationships, it's their religion, their belief system, their spiritual context. All of these things might be generating, but for some people it's not. And we have to, like, put it into a hierarchy and then maybe make even, like, what's the word? Like, different levels of hierarchy. So say I have this, like, problem in my life. I realize that that's coming from, like, a job or business connotation. Okay, I'm going to create a hierarchy and really dig into all of the components underneath this business, for example, and really seeing, like, how all of these different components combined together generate this larger hierarchical level of business, which then connects as a node almost to the system in my life that has a certain, like, anomalous factor going on. This is like complex schemata working. This is sort of like a constellation or grid work coming up here. And I mean, you know, some of us might feel discouraged about it. Some of us might be kind of, like, inconvenienced to have to go through this, but aren't the type of people in this space kind of the type of people who are very cognizant of this kind of thing and perhaps even, like, enjoy working at this level with things? So that feels to also be, like, a major component of working to resolve these anomalies, is essentially, like, wanting to get it done and wanting to cross through the other side, wanting to get this right, and not just, like, distracting ourselves with a bunch of sensory escapist mechanisms that basically keep us out of the anomaly resolution state, okay? I love this. It feels like we're really getting some higher level Pluto and Aquarius thought coming in here. So, anomalies, nodes, hierarchies, all kind of giving form and definition to the abstract and fluid decision-making constructs in our lives. This is giving some language to this, to what's on the line here with this Jupiter-Mercury context that we're in. Some of us, you know, it depends on what type of learner we are. You know, we have to get it kind of physical in front of us. Maybe it's note cards. Maybe you write down all of the constructs and you kind of get into that magician archetype in the tarot where you've got it all out in front of you on the table and you start to kind of regroup it, or you understand, you know, this node is defunct, therefore I don't pay for that anymore. But whoa, I was, and I wouldn't have even thought of that. There's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of, like, defunct nodes, I feel. So, like, components of the higher level hierarchical experience kind of weighing down the grand nature of how this higher level hierarchy implement should be in our lives. So the grid has to almost be refined, and I don't necessarily think that it's in effect until February or March, okay, but through this greater, like, sort of frustrating sequence that a lot of us are going through here, it's going to by then come into a lot greater of a fathomable kind of construct that's also lighter. You know, I'm also called to remember one of the intuitive messages that I've been getting about Pluto and Aquarius is that it's almost like entering into the next level of the atmosphere, okay? So it's like you need those major rocket boosters to, like, get up there, but then once you enter in, you've got to shed those rockets. But that's really scary for some people, because without those rockets, they would have never been able to get into the atmosphere. So there's that fear construct of, like, I don't want to let go of the booster, essentially, that made this possible in the first place, but I have to in order to work within this new level of the atmosphere. So this is very much a conversation about ascension, about sort of like transcending old problems, getting into new territories, rising above certain issues. Well, it requires quite a bit of shedding. And at the point that you enter into that new atmosphere, okay, there's not as much time for thinking about the old physics-based system because it's not so relevant anymore. So there's an importance during this time placed on understanding, okay, am I in a different level of the atmosphere here? And am I still trying to use these old boosters or these old rocket sequencing mechanisms that are reminiscent of the heavier, denser time that's now below me? All right. What can be challenging during this time is balancing out all of the other sort of processes of getting our sea legs essentially to the new atmosphere, while also being able to make judgments and executive decisions to where like we're shedding the right things. So there's sort of this adapting happening right now, right? Mutable T-square, mutable cross that we're in this week when the moon is in Virgo. There's a mutable cross, but it's for sure a T-square with Saturn in Pisces, Jupiter in Gemini, Mercury in Sagittarius season, right? So if you're a mutable person or not, it really doesn't matter. Things aren't the same past this time, you guys. Get a grip, okay? I'm having to exercise some tough love with myself and you all here who are currently having a hard time, because you don't really have to have a hard time here. It's only a hard time if we are really attached to the previous way that things worked, or if we are like rigid in implementing the same things over and over and over again, or, you know, sort of employing Pluto and Capricorn, okay? Meaning certain like overly capitalistic, overly liquidity oriented, overly ownership construct oriented ideas are not going away, obviously, but they're transforming and they're adapting here. Also, just looking to the past too much, like this is how this worked for me before, I'm going to replicate this and pull it forward. I mean, to an extent we have to do this, but if it's sort of that old booster system, if we replicate that, we're replicating something that is physically unnecessary for the new level of the atmosphere, which is kind of tangential, and it's not even tangential, it's like useless in a way, and could, you know, cause a decline. So I want you guys to, you know, if you're struggling during this time, or if you see, for example, that the current business you've been having for a long time has a decline, or if you see that like you're trying so hard, but it's like not really moving the needle, these are very common feelings right now, because what that means is that there's a node of adaptability essentially coming in during this time. And it's like, we want you to live your life in a little bit of a different way, or we actually want you to have an easier time, or we actually want you to start using a different technology or some type of other system or something that actually works so much better. And we've almost got to like make it so uncomfortable where you are, because otherwise you're not even going to try to change. And this is what happens when we get overly rigid, overly stagnant psychologies and mindsets. What happens is we stop trying new things, or we stop, you know, seeking new territories, and that's not a human experience. So like, I think something we forget these days, especially after Pluto and Capricorn, is that like part of the human biology has a nomadic kind of element. And, you know, we get really tied down, especially in Western societies, to these like property constructs or to these repetitive jobs, and they're the same thing over and over again. They're loops, and there's certainly positive, incredible developments that are possible. It's not, you know, just to put that down, but once we get into these securities or into these stabilities, jobs, houses, ownership, all of that stuff, once we're there, we have a duty to ourselves to keep expanding and keeping our lives fresh somehow. Otherwise, it starts to decline, or it starts to become, you know, people get the depression, they get stagnation in the body, they get autoimmune diseases, they get mental illness, you know, and we had this really increase a lot starting in 2020 because we had to stay home so much. So now that here and now I would consider to be almost a defunct psychological space, because yeah, Pluto's out of those areas now almost. I mean, really February or March, and then getting later into 2025 and 2026 when Pluto starts getting to like 2-3 degrees Aquarius. But mainly this super adaptable Jupiter, Mercury, Saturn T-square mutable cross when the moon is in Virgo. It's like basically saying all of that's defunct. All of those old psychological ways of accepting certain limitations have now gone defunct, which also means that certain other nodes that were sort of greasing the cogs of those systems are also going to now need to be transplanted or placed into another area. So that's really where I want to lead you guys during this period of time, and we're going to keep checking on this as we come through and get out of the Mercury and Jupiter retrogrades, February, March. And we're going to kind of see, how do we need to expand and sort of access new frontiers? And how do we need to reset the board a little bit? And also, what do we not need to keep repeating? Or what's heavy now and is essentially not boosting anything? Okay, can that be released? All right. It's hard for a lot of people here to allow themselves to do it. It's that discomfort. It's that human attachment, ego attachment grid that is really going to be a challenge here, but getting very changed and adapted through this mutable time, which honestly, you guys, we kind of needed. It kind of makes sense why a super debilitated mutable transit came through right when Pluto shifted into Aquarius for the final time, because there were so many negative attachment, ego attachment grids from those late anaretic Pluto and Capricorn retrogrades. So depending on what we were able to get through during that time, a lot of it was good. I saw on the positive side, a lot of people were able to accomplish lifelong self-actualization projects. A lot of people were able to transcend a certain negative economic status. Those were the positives. But the thing is, now all of these things are kind of like done, and now the results of them have to be adapted to fit a new kind of psychological grid, essentially releasing those rockets and stepping into the next level of the atmosphere. So that is going to be an important way to be thinking about things right now. And I think to start, we really just need to assess what is now unnecessary, what is reminiscent of the previous way of doing things that really doesn't move the needle at this time with where we are now. Realizing that and being open to things that just make things way easier, that give you more leverage, that give you, more hope and inspiration as well. So anyway, everyone, that's about it for this week ahead. Reminder, come to the 2025 Year Ahead Forecast live premiere this Friday, December 20th, 6 p.m. Pacific time. There should be a reminder going up on YouTube. I'll also be sending out emails, keeping the community tab going. And I'm so excited for that. But I will see you guys later. Have a great week ahead. Much love. Bye.